Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Dimitri Johnson, and you're listening to MMALatestNews.com.
It's time to roll, baby.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to MMA Latest. I'm here, joined with Jay and Reese. So we're going to be having a look towards the future. We're at the second part of 2020 now. First part's been a bit hectic. I'm sure the second half will probably somehow trump that. But we're going to be looking at the fights we want to see throughout the rest of the year. Obviously, we've seen some tremendous fights already at UFC 249, 250. And we're going to have 3 rounds. We're going to have 3 fights each. But we're going to pick our top 3 and have a little bit of a discussion about them. So make sure to hit subscribe and hit that like button, of course, and make sure to share on social media. Now, Jay, we're going to start off with you. What's the first fight you want to see in the back end of 2020?
The first fight I would like to see would be a bantamweight between Cody Garbrandt and Marlon Moraes. I think Cody's had a great return previously against Rafael Assunção, so he looked pretty. It was probably the best performance of his career, probably aside from the Dominic Cruz victory. I thought with Mark Henry coming in and stuff like that, it made him a little bit more crisper, a little bit more patient as well. And I thought he looked excellent. And then he shut the lights out in the second round. I think Marlon Moraes is obviously a lot of people feel like that Jose Aldo beat him for the #1 contender spot. That's debatable. I believe Jose beat him myself, but Marlon Moraes is still one of the top dogs at bantamweight. So I feel like for Cody, in order to get back to the title, he could take a slow track and just breeze through the top 10. But for him, I think the next step will be a fight against Marlon Moraes, and lo and behold, the winner that would eventually go and meet the winner of Peter Yan and Jose Aldo. Aside from Aljamain Sterling, of course, who gets the next shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
What do you make of?
I quite like that fight. I think it's definitely a big fight for Cody to jump right back into after that win last time out. It's a big step up in competition as well. Obviously, Marlon Moraes wasn't really relevant back when Cody was champion a few years back. I think it would be a really interesting fight. I think Cody would hold the speed advantage just about. And I'd be very happy to see that. Because obviously, Marlon's the odd one out of the top 5. He's the only one that doesn't have a fight scheduled. He was obviously meant to be fighting Petr Yan, of course. And now he doesn't have a fight. Yeah, that on paper and on everyone, when they've got a sensible head on, that's probably the best fight to make for both parties, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, looking at the rankings here, Moraes is the only one up there that currently doesn't really have an opponent, right up against him. Obviously, Sterling should, if he's wise, wait until Yan and Aldo's played out, and then he can get that title shot. So I think Dominic Cruz is a good shout for Cody Garbrandt, but yeah, definitely that's a good fight. Moraes, he fought for the title, got beat by Cejudo. The Jose Aldo fight went his way, although a bit lenient. Even Dana White said that Jose Aldo won that fight in the people's eyes. Aldo's, of course, got the title fight on the back of that. So yeah, Moraes and Garbrandt would be a tremendous fight, and it would be a good test to see what Garbrandt has come back. I know Sandhagen's a very good competitor, he's a contender, but Moraes is almost, if you beat him, you get a title shot at this point in his career.
Yeah, and I feel like if Moraes also beats Garbrandt, that's a title shot for him as well, because Garbrandt, being the former champion, had an impressive run up until he lost to TJ Dillashaw, and then coming back off a fantastic performance. If Moraes was to beat him, surely he would be next, even though he officially holds a win over Jose Aldo, and then beats Garbrandt, he should almost certainly be running it back for the bantamweight title.
Yeah, I don't see why he shouldn't. He said he gassed out in that Cejudo fight. So if he can make those changes and really maybe, a winner of the Garbrandt would certainly get him a title shot, and he'd be right up there for it. Reese, what's the first fight you want to see?
I'm going to have a big fight in the lightweight division. I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira versus Tony Ferguson. Obviously, Charles has had a fantastic rise coming off that win in March against Kevin Lee. We don't know where Tony's head's at. Obviously he's had a grueling 2020 so far with multiple camps that he's had, and obviously the beating that he got from Justin Gaethje, so he definitely needs to take some time out. So this could be a fight maybe towards the end of the year. But I think Charles, after his win against Kevin Lee, he was calling out Conor McGregor, but I think Charles deserves a big name, and I think they are so well matched up in all aspects of the ground. And it's like, if this fight goes to the ground with Tony's ground game in terms of those elbows as well, and obviously Charles' submission game, I think that would just be a fantastic fight to watch. And but I think that definitely needs to be a main event of a fight night. I think there needs to be 5 rounds. I don't want it, co-main or sandwich in the main card on a pay-per-view. I want that to be main event. I want it to be 5 rounds. I want to sit there and enjoy myself for as long as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fight I'd pick.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Like, I would actually rather that fight start on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those, like,
yeah.
They're striking, like, can go either way. I would probably favour Tony on the feet, but that fight on the mat, oh my God, like, that's incredible. I think Tony would have his work cut out for him, but he's no slouch because Oliveira is so slick as well. Like, they're both so capable of finishing people off their back from on top, from top position. So you can try anywhere you want on the mat, they'll finish you. So that's an excellent fight. And I think that would be, like you said, it would be the next step for Oliveira. Should he get a win or even carry himself, like, if he held his own against Tony Ferguson, let's say he even didn't get the victory, but looked good in defeat type of thing, I think his stock will absolutely rise and he would be looked at as one of the top 5 or top 10 in the lightweight division for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only sort of negative I would put towards it is seeing Tony Ferguson fight again this year, especially after the damage he took against Justin Gaethje. It's almost like he'll need 12 months out. But, again, that division is stacked. Got Khabib, Gaethje come in. It looks like you got, Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker's coming up. So really, it's only, it's Felder, McGregor and Tony Ferguson who are potential opponents ahead of him at the moment. So yeah, but, Conor McGregor's not going to fight Oliveira anytime soon. So yeah, Tony Ferguson is the standout competitor. And as you said, that fight on the ground is an absolute tremendous battle, and it would be unpredictable.
I think it is, and I think also, obviously, as you just mentioned, there are 2 key factors. One being Tony and how he's healing up, and if he wants to fight again at the end of the year. And I'm not sure what the status is with Charles Oliveira and travelling maybe out of Brazil. I'm not sure what his situation is, but I mean, if we could get that schedule for maybe like November, December, then I don't think so. I do think that has massive title implications because, Tony's been at, the top of the division for ages now. And with Conor being Conor and not really everyone's really sure where he's at. I think you do look at Hooker versus Poirier is probably then the winner of that fight, Khabib and Gaethje, if we remove Conor out of the picture. But I think if Charles was to go and beat Tony, not only would that put out a massive statement for him, for his legacy as well, I think that catapults him right into that title mix. So that's definitely a fight I want to see. And as I said earlier, it's a fight that Charles himself deserves after the great run that he's been on recently.
Yeah,
have you made a pick, Mitch?
Yeah, I have. I've made a couple. I was going to say, for a long time it was a trio of Conor, Khabib, and Tony Ferguson was the trio at the top of the lightweight division. But then Justin Gaethje almost came in, and you say he caused a shock in that division, especially against Tony Ferguson. No one was expecting him to dominate him over 5 rounds. But it's almost kind of a quadruple now. And if you beat Tony Ferguson, you could see Oliveira very much being put into that title picture. That is a fantastic fight to see. And especially in December, once we've seen Gaethje and Khabib play out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've gone big. Yeah, I have gone big for my first fight. I've gone straight to the heavyweight division, and it's the dream fight we all want to see. It's Ngannou versus John Jones. I think, we're going to see the heavyweight title picture play out. We need to see John Jones and Dana White make up first, but Francis Ngannou deserves the title shot. I think the way DC's talking, he sounds very confident going into this fight. And if he beats Stipe Miocic, retires, vacates the belt, and then we build John Jones versus Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title in MSG in November, I think that would be a good turnaround for them both. Let's see them both get a good payday. But it's time for John Jones to make his way up to that heavyweight division, I think.
Yeah, I like that fight. I don't know exactly about MSG because we obviously have to wait and see where things lie in terms of this pandemic and stuff like that. But MSG will be an ideal place to host that fight. I think that's a fight that's, like, if anything, that'll be John's biggest pay-per-view, I would imagine. It's crazy. It's a typical, like, to me, that's what a heavyweight fight should be. You have one person who's like the absolute greatest of all time in John Jones, and then you have just this destroyer coming through. It's almost like Rocky in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, but it is like, it's this bloke who came from Africa and all of a sudden he's just wrecking people. You know, and he's going through them 2 times over now. Curtis Blades is probably going to catch hands 3 times if he wins next week. So yeah, I think that's the biggest heavyweight fight. I think it will be the biggest heavyweight fight of all time. It'll eclipse anything Brock's ever done. Brock kind of holds them in terms of pay-per-views and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that would absolutely eclipse it. It would be major.
I think, like, for me, like, and this is where Francis is just very unlucky. Is obviously we've got DC and Stipe trilogy set for September or August, September, and that's like still 2 months away. So Francis has got to wait 2 months now, and then he's all like, even if DC wins, then obviously DC retires, relinquishes the belt, and you probably look at maybe the winner of this weekend's main event, or maybe you look at Stipe. Maybe he deserves another title shot? And if it is Stipe, with the way Stipe has been recovering after fights, he's going to be out for another year. So I think if that was to happen, and I definitely see John Jones. It'd be a perfect chance for him to slide straight into a title, because obviously you can't have John Jones move up and have a tune-up fight at heavyweight. It's just not on the cards. Like, you have to put him in there in such a big fight, and I think I agree with Jay that it would be probably the biggest heavyweight fight of all time.
Yeah, we've got Blades versus Volkov this weekend. If Blades wins this weekend, we can't have, Ngannou versus Blades 3. If Volkov wins, you could probably put...
Don't do it.
You can't do that. You could put Ngannou versus Volkov perhaps in September. But
Yeah, Volkov shoot the fight soon, so...
both
I don't know.
Well, he fights this weekend, but there was a very good chance that both DC and Stipe potentially retire after their last fight. If Stipe wins, he's late 30s. He's nailed on as the greatest heavyweight of all time with 4 title defenses. I think he's on 3, but I think he's the only fighter on 3 title defenses. So if he puts it on to 4, he's within at least 2 defenses with anyone catching him. So he's the greatest heavyweight. Again, if DC's retiring, no ifs and buts. But if he wins that fight, he has a very valid, statement to being the great heavyweight of all time. And you're right. Ngannou, if Ngannou was a movie, you'd almost say it's unrealistic. The fact, the story came out about him being in Spain and everything. He traveled the world, and even John Jones. You put both of their movies together. You got John Jones, someone who's known for being one of the most skillful fighters of all time, the youngest ever UFC champion. If you put that promotion together, it's definitely top 5 pay-per-views of all time. It might even
It's not just that.
be a corner card almost.
Yeah, absolutely. But you also have to look at it. It's not just that he's the youngest heavyweight champion. But if you look at it one way, right? If you're talking about a movie, right? If you look at it one way, you would have John Jones, okay, greatest of all time, most skilled, most talented, gets manky drunk a week before a fight, every fight, as a built-in excuse in case he loses, right? He's reckless. He's been in trouble with the law many times, stuff like that, for drink driving, whatever the cause, okay? That's not the bash on John, but that's just the reality. So you have that, and yet he still maintains his status as the champion and as the GOAT. So it's almost like his mindset is, whatever, I can do what I want anyway, I'm that good. And then you have Francis Ngannou, who's just walking and grinding, and then he's knocking through everybody. You know what I mean? It's almost like when that's tailor-made to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you can also put in Francis's. You can also put in Francis's failed title shot as well a few years back. That definitely plays into it as well.
I'm sorry for laughing. Sorry, Mitch's face just
it just froze.
Yeah.
It just froze.
Go ahead.
Like Francis's failed title shot, and you can put that in there, and you can say that they both had to battle for adversity. Although Francis's adversity is more can't help that, but John's he could have helped, but it didn't, and that's as you said, like that's part of his story, and you can get a fantastic promo out of that fight, and you could sell that fight. You could do like a world tour, like we saw with Aldo McGregor or Izzy is back, and I think that would be. It's one of them, isn't it? Because you've got Francis, and if he hits you, you're probably going down. You're probably getting knocked out.
9 times out, yeah.
So then that's the question: is can John avoid that? Because John's never really been. He was hit a few times against Gustafsson for a first fight, and he was hit a few times by Dom Reyes, but he's never really. I don't think we can sit here and recall a singular punch that we've all gone that really hurt John Jones, or that was one hell of a strike, and how is he still standing? So I think it's going to be interesting to see if he was to get hit by Francis, would he still be standing?
Mm-hmm.
And also as well, he's got to build into that heavyweight frame because he's been at light heavyweight now for so long, and he's used to that, to the body mass and everything that comes with it. So he'd have to bulk up. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking at OSP moving up to heavyweight. He's looking at Gustafsson moving up to heavyweight and looking how they're looking at on the scales, and when it comes into a fight of how they're bulking up a little bit maybe. But I think this is so many years in the planning for John Jones, and he's just been waiting for that right fight, and this may be it for John.
Yeah, like I think if Stipe and DC do retire in August, like I would imagine Dana White would be doing something to get the show back on the road again, and he will have to kind of just bury the hatchet with John Jones and make amends and open up the checkbook, because it's going to be expensive, but you'll make that all back. Trust me, John Jones and Ngannou, you'll make that money back tenfold.
Oh, of course, 100%.
Definitely. It's a mouth-watering contest, skill versus power. But we'll move on to the second round. Jay, what's your second fight that you want to see in 2020?
The second fight in 2020 I would like to see is Zabit versus the winner of Holloway Volkanovski 2. I think Zabit is. Look, I've seen him at times where like Calvin Kattar came close to beating him in the latter stages of the fight, but he just looks so good, and I feel like his skill set matched up with ideally Max Holloway. I would love to see that fight more so. If I had to pick who I would like to win, I would like to see Max win, to see him compete against Zabit. I think that would be an excellent matchup. I think both are so dangerous. Both can finish the fight anywhere. You see how good Max is, arguably the greatest featherweight champion of all time. Zabit looks like someone who's going to eventually be the champion. Now, it all depends on whether his train gets derailed and he can't get back on track, but I just have a funny feeling he's going to be the champion in that division. But it also depends on Volkanovski. He's no slouch either, and he has to put Max behind him as well, and he's well capable of doing that. So that's why I went with the winner of that fight. I think either way, both are so good in different areas, but yeah, I still think they'd match up well with Zabit, and that's the fight I'd like to see. I know Calvin Kattar's hanging around that division. He's probably a fight or two away from being mentioned in the title picture, but yeah, Zabit for me right now. I would love to see that fight.
Yeah. Obviously, Zabit's got that fight lined up with Yair towards, I think it's August, that's the time I think it is. But if he was to get through that, I think it makes sense for him to fight the winner of Max versus Alex, because the winner of those two fights are lined up. But at the end of the day, if Max wins and then it's one apiece between him and Alex, and then do you kind of have to do the trilogy?
I would imagine so. Yeah, I think they should do it the way they done it with DC and Stipe. Not like and even with Kane and Junior Dos Santos, but not like with Conor and Diaz. It's one fight here, and then 6 months later we do another fight, and then 2 years later we're still waiting. Yeah, I would just say get it done.
Yeah, I think you need to get those trilogies done, because then you can have a definitive winner of the trilogy as well. Because if you look at Conor and Nate, like if Conor was to fight Nate now, I think most of us would be in agreement that Conor would win quite comfortably. So, but then at the time, like the matchup was just perfect for the time period it was in. Obviously with RDA putting out and Nate stepped in, and the whole promotion behind both fights were just brilliant. But I think just going back to Zabit, it's been a while since we've had a Russian fighter who's been on the verge of a title, and he's got such a weird style, but such a prolific style as well. I mean, sometimes that style can hinder him, like we saw against Katie. We kind of maybe got a little bit too showboaty, maybe, and it allowed Calvin, to utilise his boxing really well and landed a couple of decent shots. But I do agree with the fact that he's going to be the next big featherweight champion, because I think it's inevitable that both Max and Alex move up to 55.
Yeah, I think my big question mark on Zabit at the moment is what he can do over 5 rounds. There's been a huge question about his ability to go the distance in a title fight, especially supposed to be.
Come on, Mitch.
The fuck out.
Oh, yeah.
Is it freezing again? Is it? Oh, boy.
Both. Your voice and...
I was going to say... Are we back?
No. Just continue on from what you were... Just start your thing again. Then you can...
Right, yeah. Okay, sweet. So, yeah, I think the big question for Zabit is if he can go 5 rounds. I know there's questions in his fight against Calvin Kattar, I believe. At the time, it was supposed to be the main event for Moscow, but unfortunately, it got pushed back a little bit and it got made a 3-round contest. Now, the fight against Yair is mouth-watering. I think, you saw Yair Rodriguez's previous fights, the fights against Jeremy Stephens, his knockout against the Korean Zombie was incredible. Was it the Korean Zombie? Am I right?
Yeah.
So, like, I've had a break. Yeah.
2 seconds ago.
Yeah, 2 seconds ago. So, yeah, my big question with him is if he can go 5 rounds, and once that happens, it'll be all good for him to get a title shot. But I think, that Volkanovski, if he wins that fight, there's a good chance Cejudo raises an arm and puts himself into a title mix at featherweight if he really wants to return like that.
Yeah, that's why I feel like Cejudo is not even retired. Like, I feel like that's the only thing he's holding out for. He's waiting to jump back in. He'll wait for Dana to give him a call. I'm sitting pretty heavy right now. I can jump in at 45.
Yeah.
That's his plan. I personally believe that's his plan. I don't know him on a personal basis, so obviously, I feel like that's what he's setting up to do.
I think he said that as well. I think he said
that.
He said that he wants Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, he went on Rogan and said it.
Yeah, that would be obviously creating history and, that chance to have the 3 world titles and obviously the gold medal to go with it.
See, I don't think the UFC would look at him as someone who could mark it as a 3-weight world champion. Although, he's undeniably fantastic, you know what I mean? But I don't think he would move the needle the way they would want him to do as a 3-weight world champion.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, because obviously he came across very well in the Joe Rogan interview. He almost sort of broke the gimmick. Now, whether that, that could either hinder him or it could push him further because people know who the real Henry Cejudo is almost. And he came across very likable in that. But we know he wasn't able to push himself without that gimmick pretty much. So it depends, would they be able to put more money into him being himself, or can he go back to that gimmick? And people know it's a fake gimmick, but once Chael's notorious for this. Once you let the fans know what your gimmick is, it's hard to go back to that.
Yeah, I think I don't know, but I watched the whole podcast with him and Rogan, and I actually found him more likable. So it made me more kind of interested in him as a person. So it makes me pay more attention to what he does. So if that's the case, I think he will do well in terms of gaining fans and stuff like that. But the gimmick, MMA's gone very WWE lately, so people understand that these are gimmicks and that they're not real. Like, I've seen a lot of videos as well of even Colby Covington, where he's completely out of this heel character. And he seems like an all-round genuine person, but he just says a lot of crazy stuff that gets him in trouble. Like, some people just don't appreciate it. But yeah, I think the gimmicks are, I don't think they'll hinder him at all, to be perfectly honest. I think he'll come back and he'll still give the old, do you know what I mean? Like, all that madness.
Quadruple C.
Yeah, I think it'll work for him. He's cringy, but
it
I'm
works for
starting
him.
to enjoy it.
It works for him at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
if that's what works for him, and what works for Colby works for Colby, and all these fighters that have had all these gimmicks and characters, so to say, that they play, if it works for them and it gets them bigger fights and it gets them shots at titles to throw out, then I don't think any of us are in a position to criticise. But obviously, we all want the best fights, and obviously it was a bit of a shock seeing Pseudo retire. So I think if Pseudo was to come back in 2-3 years' time, I think his stock would have rose, as we've all said, with his appearances off camera now, well, on camera but away from the octagon. So I think his stock will rise, and if he was to come back in a few years' time, then I think we'd see big numbers on in every area.
Yeah, if he came back next year at bantamweight against TJ, and we could rebuild that, because obviously there's a lot of question marks over the 125 thing. Obviously the steroid issue that TJ had, but you could rebuild that fight up and say, oh, is it going to be any different at bantamweight now? But I guess the title would have to be on the line. But yeah, Reese, what's your second fight to be picked for 2020?
My second fight, I'm going to go to the 170 division, and I'm going to go with a fight that the winner would propel themselves into the top 10 and comfortably, and it's Jeff Neal versus Vicente Luque. I think
Okay.
Jeff had obviously an incredible performance against Nico Price, as did Vicente Luque as well. So there's a common opponent in there who they're both beat. I think Jeff, out of that entire division, he's definitely a dark horse. I saw the champion Usman talk about Jeff Neal being one of the dark horses, and it's obviously his nickname being Hands of Steel, and you kind of sometimes you look at nicknames and you go, are you sure about that? But then when you watch him fight and the way he puts people away, the way he put Nico Price away was incredible. And in terms of Luque, obviously Mike Perry win, Nico Price win, of course, back last month. I think, although on Luque's side of things, it's going down the rankings a little bit, I think that's a perfect fight to really, get into the top 10 and proper cement yourself in that top 10 and set up some big fights in 2021. So that was my second fight.
Yeah, that's an excellent fight. I think Jeff Neal doesn't get enough respect.
Yeah.
In terms of just how good his skill set is. I think he's one fight away from really kind of being in that Gilbert Burns situation where he's all but ready to throw into a title fight. Like he's that good. Now I don't think one fight will be enough for him, but I think just with how dominant he can be, I think that could be that could be enough for him to put himself into that picture. I think Vicente Luque, I think he's been excellent. I remember watching him against Wonderboy, and even in that fight, I thought, even though he didn't come out on the right side of it, I still thought he performed excellent. And then to just carry on and progress from that Wonderboy performance, I thought it was amazing. He looked excellent last time round as well. So I do think that's an excellent fight, and I think it's potentially a fight that builds either of them into the top 5.
Yeah,
definitely. I think Jeff Neal, as we've all said, is the dark horse in that division at the moment. He's just petering on the edge of the top 10, but yeah, that fight would definitely propel him up there. That would definitely put him into contention, maybe up against a Michael Chiesa in the future, Damian Myers, that category of fighter where you then, if you beat them, you're then looking at a title shot.
I think we've also saw with Gilbert Burns as well is that you only have to go on a run of 3 fights, and Gilbert beat Mayer, and he beat obviously Gunnar Nelson, obviously beat Tyron Woodley a few weeks ago, and I think now everyone in especially in that division, but in the UFC generally as well, they're looking at Gilbert Burns and if I can put together 3 good wins, and if I can put maybe one really good name on my resume, like Burns did with Woodley, and then obviously with Mayer as well, then you're only ever 2 or 3 shots away from a title shot.
Yeah, look where Masvidal was when he fought Darren Till.
Yeah, Masvidal was just on the outskirts of maybe even coming away from the sport after his loss to Wonderboy.
Wonderboy, yeah. So you come off a loss, and all of a sudden you beat the big hype machine in Darren Till. Granted, Woodley had just beaten him beforehand, but you beat Darren Till, and then you fight Ben Askren, who's also undefeated, and he had a controversial win over Robbie Lawler. So go in
Yeah.
against him. Okay, no problem. Fastest KO of all time. All right, now you have Nate Diaz, who's become this global star due to his rivalry with Conor McGregor. He capitalized on that, and now he's a BMF champion, essentially. So, yeah, like 3 fights can completely change your whole career. Well, obviously for him, not anymore. He's having beef with the UFC, but you get my point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Gilbert Burns has come to the right place at the right time for him. He's been, very not. I don't want to say lucky because the fight is never lucky to be in the position that they're in. But he's been, if we look back, Leon Edwards was supposed to get that fight against Woodley, and that probably would put him into the title picture. But yeah, to bring it back to Jeff Neal, I think Jeff Neal, is something special about him potentially, and it would look good for Dana White in that Contender Series if we get a champion from the alumni of that in the near future. Right, I guess that leaves me to make my second pick, and I'm sticking to the welterweight division. I've gone with Leon Edwards versus the welterweight champion. We've got Gilbert Burns going in there against Kamaru Usman, and I feel sorry for Leon Edwards. He should have got that title fight. He should have got that Woodley fight, and we should be seeing Leon Edwards be fighting Kamaru Usman. But unfortunately, with how the world's turned out at the moment, the pandemic that we're in, Leon Edwards was unfortunately able to travel, and therefore has almost been put on the sidelines. Masvidal skipped the queue, probably rightfully so, with the hype and the traction he built. And Gilbert Burns is probably the fighter of 2020. But for me, I'd like to see Leon Edwards fight the winner. I don't want to see really Leon Edwards fight again. There could be a Colby fight out there, a Woodley fight again. You could reboot that. But for me, I think Leon Edwards really needs that fight against the welterweight champion. He deserves the fight for the belt. And whether it's Kamaru Usman, you could book it as that's the last time Leon Edwards lost in the division and in the UFC. But Gilbert Burns is a fresh matchup for him as well. And that's just as exciting. Guys, what do you think?
Go on, Jay.
Yeah, I thought, I remember like his past couple of fights, Leon Edwards, I kept thinking, right, well, this is the fight that he gets beat. And then all of a sudden he fights Gunnar Nelson. And like, well, Gunnar's jiu-jitsu, he's just going to tap him out. Well, not that easy, but he'll tap him out. And Leon gets through that with flying colours, and then again, and again. And it just looks like he's grown with every performance. So I think you're right with that pick. I think he's definitely earned the shot. He's more than entitled to it. He was very unlucky that the fight with Tyron Woodley fell out. I mean, Woodley was due to fly to the UK, I think, the day of the lockdown, apparently, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he's been incredibly unlucky, especially with travel restrictions as well, even trying to get to the Apex. So hopefully when Fight Island comes along, he'll be able to, if he doesn't get a title fight, hopefully he will be able to get a fight in Fight Island. Ideally, I would like to see him against Colby Covington. I think the two of them fit perfectly right now for where they're at. But if I was personally Leon Edwards, I would say no to Colby Covington, and I would hold out for my title shot because I feel I've earned it.
Yeah, I feel really sorry for Leon because obviously with what happened, but at the end of the day, like, these things happen, and Gilbert Burns has come out the other side of this, and he's managed to gain the most from this. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be opposed. Obviously, once again, like we mentioned with Johnny Ferguson, where Tyron Woodley sits with this, maybe the UFC try and rebook that Woodley fight, maybe. But obviously, with Gilbert next in line, as Jay said, like, you've got Colby there, who's kind of had one out. So maybe you do the Colby fight. But for Leon, yeah, I think if I'm Leon, I'm definitely holding my ground. I'm even although I'm thinking about it, if we flash back to UFC London last year, when obviously there was the backstage altercation with Masvidal, and that blew up quite a lot. So that's maybe a fight you could get a good promo out of as well. But yeah, if I'm Edwards, I'm waiting, and I'm putting my foot down, and I'm be like, look, I've been in the UFC now for so long. My last loss was to a champion 5 years ago. I'm on like an 8-fight win streak in one of the best divisions in the sport, and I want a title shot, and I'm not going anywhere until you give me that title shot.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely earned the right to do that. I think it's almost weird because you look at it, he was definitely fully deserving of the title shot. But then Masvidal jumps to the front of the line, and he's supposed to fight Usman, and then that doesn't happen. Okay, so then you think, right, will we go to Leon Edwards and we'll throw him in, but he still can't. Right, it's Gilbert Burns. So then Burns jumps Masvidal in the queue. So where does that leave Masvidal? Masvidal's still sitting around waiting. He has his back and forth with the UFC. So what do you do with him? Does Gilbert Burns fight for the title, and whatever happens there, does Masvidal fight them next, or does Leon Edwards get the shot? So you just don't know. And I think the unfortunate thing for Leon Edwards is that if Masvidal was to sit out, and then this Burns and Usman fight takes place, I still feel like they would go with Masvidal over Leon Edwards purely because of the attraction that Masvidal brings. Do I think Edwards is more deserving? Absolutely. Masvidal's on a 3-fight win streak. Leon Edwards is on an 8-fight win streak. You have to do the math sometimes, but it's also who can bring in the money, and unfortunately that's where that story lies, I think.
Yeah, especially at the moment in the times where the UFC are going to want to make money fights that really, their revenue is taking a big hit this past couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can see Masvidal being pushed into that title shot. There's very much a Tony Ferguson going on here with Leon Edwards, where he's on this, amazing win streak. He's not lost since 2015, but for some reason he doesn't get a title shot. We saw how that played out for Tony Ferguson, interim champion, got made. He got his belt taken away from him. He didn't get that fight against Khabib because of the injury. And then, everything went up in smithereens when he lost to Justin Gaethje. If Leon Edwards takes the fight and, he zigs when he should have zagged, that title picture's gone for him then.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I also think in terms of like a UK star, I think that's where the UFC's hopes were lying with Darren Till, and obviously what happened with Darren. And I think Dana is desperate, especially now that Bisping's gone. I think Dana's desperate for a British star to emerge. And, and we're saying this now, and then you can kind of go, well, you should be giving the title shot. And obviously that fight was set up with Tyron Woodley, and, the winner of that would probably fight for the title again. Definitely on Leon Edwards' side. But obviously, since he lost to Usman back in 2015, I think it was, he's obviously gone on such a great run. But if you look at the top of that run, that's when the names have started to really mean something. Whereas the lower half of that run, you kind of look at the names and you go, they're not ranked, so how relevant are they as wins? So maybe that's played into it for him. But the win over IDA, the win over even Cowboy in Singapore, these are now big names. And I think that win over Woodley, if he would have got it, definitely would have cemented his title shot 100%.
Yeah, I just think he wouldn't have got the title shot because he would have been in this position that he's in now due to the pandemic. So that's the unfortunate thing. So I do feel like let's say the Woodley fight did take place and he beats Woodley quite convincingly. Okay, Leon, you're the number one contender. He still can't fight. Yeah. They're going to have to get the ball rolling. They're going to have to replace him somewhere down the line anyway. So he would have been in the same position regardless if he had fought Woodley.
I think that's probably the only division where you've got the top 5, and the top 5 are I say they're streets apart. The rest are everyone in that division, but the top 5 are so clearly at the top, and they are the top 5, and there's no debating. Because normally we can sit here for hours and debate who should be ranked and who shouldn't be ranked, and where people are ranked in the division. But the top 5 in that 170 division, I don't think you can moan at that. Placings maybe you can alter, but the top 5 are there and they're set in stone. And it's such a weird time, and it's kind of set up for Usman to pick off Burns and then pick off Masvidal, pick off Edwards, maybe pick off Colby again if he needs to. But as I said, I think the 5 of those so well rounded as well that for the next couple of years at least we're going to see some really, really good title fights at 170.
Yeah, I think that's the best top 5 on the entire UFC roster.
Yeah, along with bantamweight as well, I think.
And bantamweight's good. I would just say that welterweight tips it for me, just because, like you said, if you look at Colby, Masvidal, right? First of all, I probably wouldn't even put Masvidal in this just yet because of look at Colby, Usman, Gilbert Burns. Think of the fights you could have between them 3 alone.
Yeah,
it feels like it's almost going to be the exact same fight. They just don't stop for 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's an elite level of combat, you know what I mean, with these 3 guys. And then you can add in Masvidal, Edwards, Woodley. I do think Woodley's on a decline. But you see what I mean? It's still an elite level group of fighters.
Yeah, it's an absolutely stacked division. Absolutely stacked, Yeah, I probably agree. It's one of the best top fives in there. I think bantamweight's up there. Lightweight is obviously up there, but again, there's probably more intriguing fights just because of the fact that the cardio at welterweight is such an elite level. As you said, Gilbert Burns, Covington, and Kamaru could easily do 5 rounds without question, and that really stands out. You could say lightweight is almost like a winner's luck with a knockout in terms of Khabib. Khabib's such a good wrestler, so you almost there's almost only one way to beat him. Whereas Usman is a good wrestler. But yeah, definitely welterweight's a stacked division. But yes, we'll move on to the third and final round. Jay, what is the fight you want to see most of all in 2020?
We're staying at welterweight, and we're going with Jorge Masvidal. And I was gonna say Jorge Masvidal versus Colby Covington, but the only thing that eclipses that is Jorge Masvidal and Conor McGregor. And the stipulation in this is that the BMF title is defended at the end of year card, and it will do crazy pay-per-view buys. I don't even think I need to explain the reasons behind this one. I think we touched on it previously, but just in case people didn't see the other clips that we done, Masvidal is basically wit's end with the UFC over fighter pay. Conor McGregor's at wit's end with the UFC for lack of fights. It's the biggest no-brainer to me. They've both called each other out. They've both went back and forth online. They both need to be accommodated, basically. And why not do it? And I think that regardless of what you want to do with Conor or Masvidal after that, it just catapults the winner even more, because this is the first time they're both find someone with kind of similar star power. Conor's the bigger star power out of the two, but Masvidal has been grown rapidly. So I think this will be the first time where you'll have two mega stars going at each other, and whoever wins that, I think, just goes through the roof. I think if Masvidal were to beat Conor, he could have the ability to surpass him as a megastar.
I think it's incredible that we're all sitting in here, and as soon as we all mention that sort of matchup, we all just got a massive smile on our face, because that's a sort of matchup that, I mean, don't get me wrong, the UFC is doing so well at the minute, and obviously the first pay-per-view on Fight Island is incredible, but like as Jay said, like that matchup just makes sense, especially with Gilbert getting the shot at the belt. I think it just makes sense, and it's that's one of the few routes that Conor has to that 170 title, if that's what he's going for. If he beats Masvidal, then although deserving it definitely isn't a thing, you can definitely sit down with Dana and be like, look, I've just beaten Cowboy at 170. I've just beaten Masvidal, who was your biggest star last year without a doubt. And I'm still here. I'm fresh. I'm ready to go, and you could just hop into any fight there at 170. But yeah, Conor and Masvidal, it definitely sets it up, and the BMF belt with it, I think definitely, Dana White can get a few more dollars from that. I think he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, that is a mouth-watering contest. Even if you promote it as the fastest knockout in UFC history with the fastest title knockout in UFC history, you've even got that to add towards it. You put a BMF belt on the line.
You've been doing your research.
I have. It's almost like you add a little bit of the spice level to the Nate Diaz rivalry. It's like you add a belt to it, and it's the west side the east side instead of the west coast that you're going at this time. That is a mouth-watering contest, and hopefully it wouldn't be over in about 13 seconds, because that would be really sad. You need that to go the full distance and be an absolute war.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it would go about 2 or 3 rounds. I couldn't see it going the distance for either fighter. I think the fight would have a finish. Go ahead, Reese.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think that, especially with Conor, obviously Conor has his moments of gassing out during fights and stuff like that, whereas, Jorge, we haven't really saw it too often, him going a full 5. But I would lean to there being a finish, and I'd probably lean towards Conor as well in that fight if I had to put my cards on the table.
Yeah, that's scary. The only thing that would scare me, I think, is if Conor was to win that fight and he asked for a welterweight title shot. As a Conor fan, that would scare me, because I don't think he's I don't want to say capable. I don't think he's ready to be able to beat the likes of Usman, Burns, or Covington just because of the fact that they are a lot bigger than him in size and their cardio is just on another level.
I think capable is the right word. I think he beats Masvidal, but I don't think he's got it in him to beat an Usman or to beat a Burns or to beat a Colby or even a Leon Edwards. I just don't think he has it in him. You know, that's nothing bad on him, but you know, you match up well against certain fighters, and he kind of matches up well against Masvidal, but doesn't match up against anyone else in that top five.
Yeah, I think
maybe
lightweight is the easy path. I think the fight with Masvidal at 170, purely because the only reason that should happen is the same reason that happened with Cowboy. You know, he was to have the fight at 70 and then drop down. As Dana said, it was a lightweight fight at 170.
Yeah.
Whatever way you walk that. But I think you can do the exact same thing with Masvidal and then just have him drop down and fight the winner of Gaethje and Khabib.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you saw it after 244. I think Connor's return statement was he wanted 3 fights. He wanted to fight Cowboy, then the BMF belt winner, and then Khabib and Tony winner. So he clearly has his eye on Masvidal. Masvidal was slowly creeping up behind him in that star power. And then at 246, Masvidal was in the corner. You know, you saw the drive that kind of had him in his house coat on his Octagon interview. So there's something there. And oh my God, that tour would be incredible. The back and forth. Both of them know how to sell a fight. Both of them know how to talk. And it does remind me, it's almost like if you put the Nate Diaz sort of rivalry with the Aldo World Tour and the way he sold that Aldo Tour, and that's just them two meshed together in one absolutely tremendous fight.
And you can tell that they absolutely respect each other as well. I know Masvidal is more keen on talking negative about McGregor in the press than McGregor is about him. McGregor doesn't mention it as much. Mm-hmm. But I've heard Masvidal many times address how much he respects Conor for what he's done as the business side of things, ground the sport, whatever else. Then also his performances in the cage. So I know McGregor would share the same sentiment towards Masvidal. I mean, it takes hard work to get to where Masvidal is now, so I'm sure both have rightly earned it. But that wouldn't be a Donald Cerrone, Conor McGregor press conference where it's so calm and nice. They're gonna try and up each other every time.
Yeah, social media is gonna have a field day with that one. It would almost be sad if they turned up and just almost spent the press conference almost complimenting each other and saying how much they respect each other.
Masvidal doesn't play like that.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. It'd be proper 12 versus tequila as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that
no
works
more
in every
from
single
McGregor at press conferences, please.
Oh, no. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not try that one again. Let's save it for after the fight. But yeah, that's incredible. Reece, that's gonna be a tough one to follow up against.
I mean, you say that, and in terms of like pure stylistically, this is the only reason I've done this fight. And although the latter in this fight probably doesn't deserve to fight someone like this, I think it's a great fight. And I'm going at featherweight, and I'm going Ryan Hall versus Kron Gracie. And I don't think I need to explain why. You know, if you're a fan of MMA, whether it's today or over the years, like we all know the Gracie family, and we all know that nobody in the featherweight division wants to fight Ryan Hall. And I think that is a fight that you have to start on the ground, and we can all sit there for 15 minutes and just enjoy some incredible grappling transitions and submission attempts. You know, the two of them could just have a beer after and just celebrate what a spectacle they've just put on. So I think that's a massive, massive fight. And the thing is with Ryan Hall as well is Ryan Hall's ranked like 13th, I think, in the division.
He shouldn't be.
Yeah. But I think that, you know, Kron's obviously coming off a loss to Cub Swanson, and it was a tough one for him. But I'm just forgetting who they've beat, who they haven't beat, and let's just get him in there. And
Ryan Hall's got wins over Artem Lobov, Maynard, BJ Penn, and Darren Elkins, I think. So he's on a four-fight win streak at the moment.
He's on a four-fight win streak.
That's not bad. He's beating the GOAT and BJ Penn.
That's the thing with Ryan Hall is that no one wants to fight him. Like, you know, he's been quite vocal about it. that every time there's an opponent put to him, he signs on the dotted line and they don't. And, you know, as an opposition fighter, like, you look at Ryan Hall and you're like, yeah, I don't fancy any of that. You know, I want to keep all my limbs and I want them attached to I just want to keep my body healthy for as long as I possibly can. And if you go up against Ryan Hall, I don't think you can guarantee that. You know, you're going to come out with some form of injury. You're going to come out with a bone popping out, sticking out where bone shouldn't be sticking out. But going up against someone like Kron Gracie, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, we could have shades of Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou, where on paper it's going to be a blockbuster. It's not going to be not entertaining. And then all of a sudden we're sitting there 15 minutes and we fell asleep and woke up for the last minute. But it's Kron Gracie, Ryan Hall, like, two masters on the ground. Let's just book it and just see how it ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't. Like, I don't even know what to say on top of what you've just mentioned in terms of that fight, because it's like we touched on it with your previous fight with Ferguson and Charles Oliveira. Just get them on the ground and let's just see what they do.
Yeah.
You know, and I think these two are just next level. Like Ryan Hall, like, God bless him, that fella can't get a fight because people don't want to fight him. You know, when you walk into a cage and you finish BJ Penn, look, it doesn't matter where BJ Penn was in his career. BJ Penn has never been finished like that.
No.
Look, it was so quick and so smooth. I've never seen that like that. Now, we couldn't do it to Artem, so we'll, like, let's just give it Artem brownie points, okay? But yeah, Ryan Hall for me is just criminally underrated. He shouldn't be ranked 13th in the division. But again, he needs to fight, and people need to accept the fight.
Yeah, I agree. That's a tremendous fight, and especially for the jiu-jitsu lovers. You know, you almost feel like if that's a crowd, you can anticipate the boos that are coming, because, you know, the crowd always want them to stand up and stand and bang. But I think some crowds are getting more wiser to the ground game and starting to appreciate a little bit more from inside the venue. But yeah, that's one you want inside that smaller cage. But yeah, as you said, there's almost a Damian Maia versus Ben Askren worry about that one, where it doesn't quite go the way you want.
There is, but I think at the same time, though, is that, like, we've got two men here in Hall and Gracie, and especially if you look on Gracie's side, like, Gracie was born in this world. He was born on the mat. You know, he's had generations of his family fighting on the mat, and obviously we all know about Ryan Hall's credentials as well. But I just want to quickly touch on what you mentioned about the crowd familiarising themselves with jiu-jitsu. Like, I prefer the stand-up part of MMA. I prefer both. You know, I prefer two men or two women to just stand there and just punch each other's heads in. But I think a fight like that, I can just sit there and I can appreciate, like, how skilled you are to, you know, to be able to do that, and to be able to watch that for 15 minutes. It will be an absolute pleasure, despite the fact that I do prefer stand-up. And but as you said, like, especially in these smaller cages as well, that we could get some real interesting transitions there, and, you know, we could see, you know, suplexes across the cage and stuff like that as well, because of that. Like, 5 foot is a lot when you're in that cage and when you're doing grappling transitions. So I just think it's a fight that maybe doesn't make sense on paper, but yeah, it's just a fight I want to see.
Yeah, I think we could have a. Sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
I would say, no, you finish your point. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I remember when Gunnar Nelson fought Damian Maia.
Yes.
On Conor McGregor undercard. I can't remember which one. I believe it was for Aldo or Nate Diaz one, maybe. But yeah, like, even that fight, to me, that was completely entertaining. I enjoyed the whole 15 minutes of that. Whereas there's a lot of casual fans who kind of just tune in and, oh, whatever, this is great, they're on the ground, just stand them up and let them strike, whatever else. Like, it's MMA, so if you're a fan of the sport, you appreciate it all. And I probably shared that same opinion on jiu-jitsu until I trained in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And after getting choked out for the first time, I realised, right, there's a skill to this, there's a technique, everything. It's an unbelievable feeling. So, yeah, like, for me, that's a completely entertaining fight. I'd love to see that. I don't disagree with your pick at all, Reese.
No, if the UFC don't want to make it, ring up old Uncle Chow and get that on Submission Underground, because that's certainly
exactly. There's always ways to do that.
But yeah, that's a tremendous fight. We've all picked good fights. They're all interesting, intriguing fights. You know, But I think my final one, does need some fights to go each other's way. But I've gone with Adesanya versus Darren Till. I think Darren Till has easily become 2020's funniest fighter. The social media he's been putting out. He's made his own website, for crying out loud, going at Mike Perry. He bought a domain just to go at him. You know, that's a fun back and forth.
That's a flex, that is.
That is. He's clearly bored, but you know, they both have wins over Kelvin Gastelum, of course, both good fights. Adesanya, you know, Till's got to get through Whittaker first in a couple of months' time. That's going to be a testing bout for him, and probably Adesanya might have to get through Paulo Costa. But I don't think it's because I'm an Adesanya fan. I'm slightly worried about Costa. I'd rather see Adesanya Till at the moment, just because they seem to have, there's something budding there between Adesanya versus Till that could make for a great fight, and you know, a great build-up to a fight as well.
Who wins, Mitch?
Don't make me do that.
You can't sit here for 10 minutes describing why it's a good fight and then not pick. You got to give a pick there.
I'd say Darren Till, and then we get a rematch, and Adesanya wins a rematch, and we go back to 1-1.
That's what I'm sitting on the fence.
You've got sprinters there, Mitch. You might want to remove those sprinters.
Yeah. I want to see another British champion. I do, but I don't want to see Adesanya lose.
I'm going to call the shocker and say Paulo Costa knocks Adesanya out.
Oh yeah, I was just like, obviously we've got to get past that, you know, the Paulo Costa fight first, and Paulo Costa is such a dangerous fighter. Like, that fight against Romero was absolutely nuts. It was wild, and you know, Adesanya, I know we've always kind of said that, you know, the Whittaker fight was his hardest fight. Then he fought Romero, and that's his hardest fight. And he fights Costa now, and I think that's his most dangerous fight as well. I don't think that, in terms of size, Till is obviously, he's perfect for that middleweight division. Maybe even perfect for like a 195 division if there was one or something. But in terms of size, he's fine. But I just think that Adesanya, like, I don't think we've saw anything, like, obviously shades of Anderson Silva back when Anderson Silva was in his prime, and the way Adesanya is just walking through people. Obviously, the fight against Romero, I think everyone's kind of just putting that on the backbone a little bit because it was underwhelming. But, you know, like, the fight against Gastelum, showing that, I think that was the biggest thing for a lot of people was, you know, is he have the heart to, you know, can he get hit? Can he survive? And we saw that against Kelvin, and that was one of the greatest fights of all time. But I do like Till versus Adesanya. I think it would be a good build-up. But I definitely edge towards Adesanya.
Reece, do you think that the way you said there about Adesanya, he had the heart against Kelvin Gastelum?
Yeah.
Do you think when he fought and got hit by Romero in the first round, that was just a different level of power, and that kind of changed his opinion on engaging the way he did?
Maybe.
Gastelum?
Maybe. Obviously, Gastelum, Romero has that raw power, whereas Gastelum has the power, but that comes with the speed. You know, the way Gastelum throws the left hand is incredible. And to be honest, when Darren Till fought Gastelum, although I didn't want to, I was leaning towards Gastelum. But Till is definitely one of the hardest punches in that division as well. So I do think that when he got hit by Romero, it was a little bit like, okay, so he hits hard, so I'm not going to, you know, maybe stick to my normal game plan. And that may be why the fight went and played out the way it did. But I definitely think that he needs to be careful for the power, because, you know, I think Adesanya is very much like Gastelum, is that he can hit hard, but it's the speed that comes with it. And when you combine the two of them, it's just game over. I mean, we saw what he did to Derek Brunson as well. So
yeah, true. He pieced him up.
Yeah, Adesanya's had a great rise to the title. It's almost, I don't want to go too cliche, but it's almost similar to McGregor's in terms of McGregor's next title is always going to be his next fight. That next title is always going to beat him, but he persevered. And there's always this thing that, you know, almost the conceive believe achieve thing. They saw themselves as champions as soon as they stood inside the octagon, and they made it happen. You know, from his debut to being champion, it only took Adesanya 2 years. That's quite a meteoric rise. He had about 6 or 7 fights in that time as well.
I'm just more impressed that you caught with Luke Rockhold.
I know I'm disappointed in myself, but that I'm gonna exit the chat now. But hey,
I wish I could just give their Bisbing response, but we can't.
No.
Yeah.
Hey. Anyway, yeah, that was fantastic. 9 fantastic bouts that we're looking forward to see.
Can we put them all
If you
on
had to
one
pick
card?
Why not? No one's fighting twice, are they? They're all different.
No?
Yeah,
fighters.
but that's actually one thing that I'm impressed with. Not one of us picked the same player.
Yeah.
I could have
'cause, yeah.
sworn that we all would have picked McGregor Masvidal for some reason.
That was like I was driving home today and I was thinking that's the first fight that I'm picking, but then I was like, no, I'm just not going to pick that. And that's why I kind of went with a mindset, as I said earlier. Like I want a big implications of a winner, or even just for a fight in general. And I am impressed that we've all picked different fighters. And I mean, if we had all 9 fights of those on the card, forget 12 fight cards, just have those 9. Let's have them on
About
Fight
5 title
Island.
fights on there.
Exactly.
How many
like,
points go the distance?
3, maybe 4
Maybe.
tops.
Maybe.
It's so hard to be able to sit here, and I think also that's a good thing as well. Is the fights that we picked, is it's so hard to. Like, I don't think any of us can sit here and go, he's going to win, and not be comfortable with that. And I think that's such. Just imagine if we were in charge of a matchmaking for UFC, and we'd just have these cards every week. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's that competition to make a match with Dana White, so maybe we'll have to enter that and see where we can get. Pull some strings. That's tremendous.
Yeah, I think they're very good picks.
Yeah,
I just want to quickly ask, who would be fight of the night out of all those? Because there's so many there. Let's just say Dana's going to have a hard task picking performance of the night bonus as well.
Well, if Conor wins, he gets a performance bonus.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it because it's mine, but I reckon Moraes and Garbrandt have potential for him.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah.
Garbrandt knockout of the night, maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And again, one of your jiu-jitsu ones would have been very good.
Yeah. But then the only thing with that is, as I said, like we have the risk of it turning into Lewis versus Ngannou, where it's just a bit. But I can't imagine. I think it's different when it comes to standing. Like if you're 2 strikers, like you don't want to get, especially at heavyweight, you don't want to get hit by Francis. You don't want to get hit by De La Luz either. Whereas on the ground, both Ryan and Crone would be not afraid to go to the ground. They're both confident in their abilities, and they both think they're better than the other. So I don't, as Dana said over the years, I don't think you can ever guarantee anything in the fight game. But I think there's a lot of these fights that we've mentioned. I think you can guarantee absolute wars for as long as they last.
Yeah, absolutely. Some sick fights.
Yeah. And as you said, we managed not to pick the same fight or the same fighters pretty much. So
how bad would it be? Out of these 9 fights, how bad would it be if not one of them fights got made in the next 6 months?
That'd be shocking. I think there's definitely a few fights. There's at least 2 or 3 fights in there that are not leading towards the, oh my God, I'd love to see that fight. That's more of these are a fight. Like, for example, the biggest one I think is Garbrandt versus Marlon Moraes. I think we do see that fight in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we see the likes of John Jones and Ngannou in 2020. I don't think we see Ryan Hall versus Crane Gracie, to be honest. But there are definitely 3 or 4 fights in there, but you definitely look at 2020 and you definitely see them being pulled off.
Yeah, we keep a hold of this, and once they do get made, we can look back at this in 3-4 months' time and say we predicted it first.
Yeah, then we can apply.
Exactly.
Then we can apply for Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard's position. Make it. Yeah, we would just make it a 3-way matchmaking meeting every week.
That's right. We'll build our own war rooms soon anyway. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the fantastic chat, guys. We're going to wrap it up there. Guys, in the comments below, make sure to give us your 3 fights of the year that you want to see most of all. And of course, make sure to check these guys out on Twitter. Jay, where can they find you?
You can find me at jfarrell FARRELL_1. As in literally 1, not N-O. Yeah, you can find me there on Twitter.
And Reese, where can they find you?
Reese Mani UFC. It's pretty simple.
Awesome. Yeah, and also make sure to hit that subscribe button, of course. Make sure to hit like and share it across your social medias. And we will see you guys on the next video.